In the cathedral of our kitchen, the stove was our altar and the sizzle of oil our hymn. Rachel, at the tender age of 40, found myself in an unexpected role, mentor to my stepson Alex, a young man ripe for life's adventures. Our relationship, always amicable, had blossomed into a profound connection through our shared culinary passion. The spring sun, pouring through the kitchen windows, bathed the room in liquid gold. In a moment of brazenness, I excused myself to slip out of my bra, the underwire, and lay stifling under the heat of the afternoon. The thin fabric of my tank top whispered against my skin, a silent rebellion against the stifling warmth. Upon my return, a flicker of surprise danced in Alex's eyes, swiftly veiled by a polite smile. Yet there was no mistaking the new depth in his gaze, a subtle shift that spoke volumes. We immersed ourselves in the evening's culinary endeavor, a classic beef stir-fry with a vibrant array of vegetables, pride, and an unsettling thrill coursed through me as Alex's hands confidently followed my instructions, his movements gaining assurance with each passing minute. The kitchen pulsed with the symphony of our efforts, and I found myself enveloped in the moment, the outside world fading into a distant murmur as I leaned in to adjust the flame beneath the wok. Our bodies brushed, sending a jolt of electricity through me. Alex's sharp intake of breath mirrored my own, a heat rising to my cheeks, our eyes locked, suspended in a heartbeat. Acutely aware of our thundering hearts and the palpable tension in the air, I stepped back with a murmured apology, busying myself with slicing the cooked beef, but there was no escaping the palpable tension that had taken root between us. Each glance, each inadvertent touch, seemed to stoke the flames of a mutual attraction we could no longer ignore. And then there was the undeniable evidence of his arousal, a silent testament to the effect our proximity had on him. I pretended not to notice, but the knowledge that I could still evoke such desire filled me with a heady mix of guilt and exhilaration. The kitchen had become our crucible. Each dish we prepared a symphony of flavors that mirrored the complexity of our emotions as we plated our stir-fry, surrounded by the intoxicating scents of soy and ginger. I felt an intimate connection, as if the act of cooking together had woven an invisible yet unbreakable thread between us. We sat to savor our creation, the quiet clink of our forks against the plates the only sound in the otherwise silent kitchen. I watched Alex take his first bite, his eyes fluttering shut in appreciation. "This is incredible, Rachel," he said, genuine admiration lacing his voice. "I could never have accomplished this without you." "You're a natural, Alex," I replied, my voice softer than I intended. "I'm just happy I could help." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the kitchen, the day's heat dissipated, yet the air between us remained thick with unspoken desires that had been simmering all afternoon. I knew we were perched on the edge of something monumental, a shift in our relationship that could irrevocably alter the course of our lives. I stood to clear the table, feeling the weight of Alex's gaze on my back. When I turned, he was mere inches away, his body a magnetic pull. "Rachel," he said, his voice a low whisper that seemed to echo in the quiet kitchen, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." My heart raced, senses heightened to a painful degree. I could smell the faint trace of his cologne, a woodsy scent that mingled with the lingering aromas of our meal. I could see the stubble on his chin, the way his hair fell across his forehead, the intensity in his eyes that sent a thrill through me. "What is it, Alex?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He reached out his hand, brushing against mine. A touch so gentle yet filled with so much longing that it left me breathless. I don't just want to learn how to cook, he confessed, his G never leaving mine. I want to learn everything you're willing to teach me. In that moment, the kitchen transformed into a sanctuary where time stood still, and the only thing that mattered was the connection between us, a connection that had transcended family ties and ventured into far more complicated territory. As I stood there caught in the gravity of Alex's words, I knew that the next chapter of our lives was about to begin, a chapter that promised both exquisite pleasure and the potential for a heart-wrenching pain. The line had been crossed, and there was no turning back. The kitchen, once a place of innocent culinary exploration, had become the stage for a drama that would test the limits of our mutual attraction and challenge the very foundations of our family. Yet, as I looked into Alex's eyes filled with a hunger that matched my own, I knew we were both willing to take the risk, no matter the cost. Morning light spilled across the kitchen floor, casting long shadows that seemed to echo the hidden complexities of our new reality. I stood at the counter, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, my thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and desire. Alex, still blur-eyed from sleep, stumbled into the room, the memory of our passionate encounter hanging between us like a tangible presence. Good morning, he mumbled, his gaze lingering on my lips before quickly looking away, a flush creeping up his neck. I nodded, noted in greeting, the words caught in my throat as was. I struggled to reconcile the young man before me with the lover who had awakened eight of me. I thought had long since been buried. The kitchen, once a place of shared recipes and laughter, was now the keeper of our secret that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. We moved about the space in a careful dance, the air charged with the knowledge of what had transpired the night before. The simplest of touches, a brush of hands as we reached for the same utensil, a shared laugh over a spilled ingredient, was now laden with significance. Each interaction, a delicate negotiation between our roles as family and the undeniable pull of our attraction. As the day wore on, the tension between us grew, fueled by the unspoken question of what would happen next. We were playing a dangerous game, one that could potentially unravel the fabric of our family, and yet the thought of denying the connection between us was equally unbearable. It was in this state of heightened awareness that we decided to venture out of the house, seeking a reprieve from the intensity of our solitude. We found ourselves at a bustling farmer's market, the vibrant colors and lively chatter, a stark contrast to the quiet tension that had enveloped our home. We walked side by side, our arms occasionally brushing against each other as we navigated the crowded stalls. I watched Alex from the corner of my eye, his profile highlighted by the midday sun, and felt a surge of affection that was both tender and alarming in its intensity. As we perused the fresh produce, I made a bold decision, one that would further blur the lines of our relationship. I leaned in close, ostensibly to point out a particularly luscious batch of strawberries, my breath hot against his ear as I whispered, "I can't stop thinking about last night." Alex stiffened, his eyes darting to mine in a mixture of surprise and arousal. "Neither can I," he admitted, his voice low and husky. The rest of the market faded into the background as we stood there, the world around us momentarily forgotten. It was a reckless move, one that could have exposed our secret to the prying eyes of passers-by, but in that moment I didn't care the need to feel connected to him, to affirm that what we shared was real, was all-consuming. We returned home with our bounty, the silent agreement between us palpable. The kitchen once again became our stage, the prep work for our meal, a sensual ballet performed to the rhythm of our shared desire. We worked in tandem, our movements fluid and synchronized, the air thick with the scent of ripe fruit and the promise of what was to come. As we cleaned up after our meal, the remnants of our feast scattered across the countertop, Alex turned to me, his eyes filled with a determination that took my breath away. "Rachel," he said, his voice steady despite the tremor of vulnerability that underlay his words, "I don't want this to be a one-time thing. I want more." My heart clenched at his admission, the gravity of our situation crashing down upon me. We were treading on dangerous ground, the potential fallout of our actions looming large on the horizon, and yet, as I looked into Alex's eyes, the answer was clear. "I want that too." I confessed the words, feeling both like a victory and a surrender. In the quiet aftermath of our declaration, we stood facing each other, the kitchen around us a testament to the life we had built and the risks we were willing to take to explore the depths of our connection. The line had been crossed, the consequences bammed, and as we came together in a fiery embrace, it was with the understanding that our lives were irrevocably intertwined. For better or for worse, the line had been crossed, and there was no pretending otherwise. The kitchen, once a place of shared meals and safe conversations, was now the backdrop for our most intimate and forbidden moments. As the night deepened, so did our connection, the air between us vibrating with the unspoken electricity that comes with newfound love and the weight of its inherent risks. We stood close, the heat between us palpable. My heart raced as Alex's hand found mine, his fingers intertwining with my own in a silent declaration of his feelings. We were past the point of caution, the gravity of our situation pale in comparison to the depth of our desire for each other. In a bold move, I leaned up and captured his lips in a searing kiss, a kiss that spoke of longing and the sweet ache of finally giving in to temptation. Alex responded with a hunger that matched my own, his arms wrapping around me as he pulled me flush against him. The evidence of his arousal was unmistakable, pressing against my lower abdomen, sending a thrill of anticipation coursing through my veins. With fumbling hands we undressed each other, the urgency of our need reducing us to a tangle of limbs and heated whispers. My blouse fell to the floor, followed by my skirt, leaving me in nothing but my undergarments. Alex's gaze roamed over me with an intensity that made my skin tingle, his approval evident in the low growl of appreciation that escaped his throat. He hoisted me up onto the cool marble of the kitchen island, the contrast of the cold surface against my warm skin making me gasp. I watched with bated breath as he removed his own clothes, revealing a body that was at once both familiar and thrillingly new. My hands reached out to touch him, tracing the lines and contours of his chest, each muscle tensing under my fingertips. Alex stepped between my legs, his hands cupping my face as he kissed me with a tenderness that belied the urgency of our situation. Our bodies moved together in a dance as old as time, each touch, each caress, drawing us closer to the precipice of no return. The numb world outside the kitchen ceased to exist. There was only us, our bodies joined in the most intimate of ways, our hearts beating in unison as we rode the waves of our shared passion in the quiet aftermath, with the kitchen bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight streaming in through the windows. We lay entwined on the rug in front of the stove, our bodies sated and our souls bared to one another. The enormity of what we had done, what we continued to do, hung in the air between us, a silent reminder of the delicate tight RPP. We now walked together, we dressed in silence, the weight of our new reality settling over us like a heavy cloak as we tidied the kitchen, restoring it to its previous state of order. I couldn't help but feel as though the room itself had been forever changed by the events that had transpired within its walls. Alex and I shared a long, lingering look as we prepared to part ways for the night, the promise of tomorrow and all the days to come hanging between us. There were no words that could adequately capture the complexity of our emotions, so we let our eyes do the talking, conveying a mix of love, fear, and the unwavering determination to face whatever lay ahead. Together, with a final tender kiss, we separated, the knowledge that we were stepping out of the sanctuary of the kitchen and back into the real world heavy in our hearts. The line had indeed been crossed, and with it there was no turning back. Our lives from this moment forward would be forever intertwined in ways we were only just beginning to understand. Morning light spilled into the kitchen, casting a harsh spotlight on the reality of our situation. The room, once a haven of forbidden pleasures, now echoed with the silent reverberations of our shared secrets. Alex and I moved about the space, the motions of preparing breakfast now fraught with the tension of unspoken words and the weight of inevitable consequences. As we sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the remnants of our meal growing cold on our plates, the air was thick with the knowledge of what had transpired between us. We were treading water in a sea of complexity, the undercurrents of guilt, fear, and undeniable love threatening to pull us under at any moment. The sound of the front door opening jolted us from our reverie. My husband, Alex's father, was home unexpectedly, his presence a stark reminder of the fragile balance we had so carelessly disrupted. My heart raced as I scrambled to compose myself, to push aside the tumult of emotions that raged within me and present a facade of normally good morning. He greeted us, his voice casual, as he set his briefcase down and poured himself a cup of coffee. It's strange to find you both here at this hour. Everything okay? I met his gaze, my smile forced as I nodded. Yes, of course, we just felt like having a family breakfast. Didn't we, Alex? His eyes wide with a mixture of fear and guilt, managed a weak nod, his voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, just thought it would be nice. The conversation that followed was stilted and awkward, the strain of our deception casting APA over the morning. We danced around the truth, each of us acutely aware of the chasm that now lay between us, a chasm that had been carved out by the secret we shared. As the day wore on, the walls of our home seemed to close in around us, the silence punctuated only by the ticking of the clock and the occasional creak of the floorboards. Alex and I exchanged furtive glances, each look a silent plea for understanding and reassurance in the face of our new reality. That night, as I lay in bed next to my husband, the man who had been my partner and confidant for so many years, the weight of my betrayal bore down on me with a crushing intensity. The lines between right and wrong, which had once seemed so clear, were now irrevocably blurred, and I found myself trapped in a web of my own making a prisoner of my own desires. Over the following days, Alex and I grew more adept at navigating the treacherous waters of our clandestine relationship. We established boundaries and rules designed to protect our secret, even as we sought out moments of stolen intimacy whenever the opportunity presented itself. But the strain of our double life was beginning to take its toll, the of discovery casting a shadow over our time together. It was during one of these stolen moments, with the kitchen once again serving as our refuge, that the fragility of our situation was brought into stark relief. We were so wrapped up in each other, so lost in the illusion of our own private world, that we failed to hear the soft creak of the door swinging open behind us. "What the hell is going on here?" The voice, laced with disbelief and raw fury, cut through the tranquility of the room. Like a knife, we turned to find my husband standing in the doorway, his face a mask of shock and betrayal as he took in the scene before him. Time seemed to stand still as the three of us stood there, the gravity of the situation settling over us like a shroud. Alex and I, our hands still clasped together, were caught in the act, our secret laid bare for all to see. In that moment, the careful facade we had constructed came crashing down around us, the consequences of our actions playing out in devastating slow motion. We had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed, and now we would all have to face the fallout of our choices. The kitchen, once a place of warmth and togetherness, was now the stage for our unraveling, a stark reminder that some recipes, no matter how enticing, are doomed to end in disaster. My husband's eyes, filled with a mixture of hurt and anger, darted between Alex and me, searching for some explanation, some justification for the betrayal he had just witnessed. "How could you?" he asked, his voice breaking on the last word. The question was rhetorical, yet it demanded an answer, one that neither Alex nor I could provide. I felt my throat constrict with emotion, a cocktail of guilt, shame, and the stubborn remnants of the love that had led us down this treacherous path. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words died on my lips, choked by the enormity of the situation. Alex, his face pale, stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "Dad, I'm sorry. We never meant for this to happen." His apology only seemed to fuel my husband's anger. "To happen? You think that's an excuse? This is beyond comprehension." He turned to me, the betrayal etched into the lines of his face. "And you, Rachel, I trusted you. You were supposed to be a part of this family." The accusation stung, a painful reminder of the role I had played in this unfolding drama. I was the stepmother, the adult who should have known better. And yet here I was entangled in a forbidden romance with my stepson. The silence that followed was deafening, the ticking of the kitchen clock, a cruel reminder that time marched on, indifferent to our pain and confusion. My husband stood there, his shoulders hunched, the weight of his disappointment a heavy burden for us all to bear. "I need some time alone," he finally said, his voice hollow. I just need some space to process this." Without another word, he turned and left the room, the sound of his retreating footsteps echoing in the stillness. Alex and I were left standing amidst the wreckage of our choices, the reality of our situation sinking in with a finality that was both sobering and terrifying. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the house was tense and strained. My husband retreated into a self-imposed isolation, his presence a ghostly reminder of the life we had once shared. Alex and I, bound by our secret and the love that had grown from it, found ourselves navigating a minefield of emotions, each step cautious and uncertain. Conversations were stilted, meals shared in silence, and the once vibrant energy of our home was replaced by a heavy sense of loss and regret. We were a family fractured, the bonds that had held us together now frayed and weakened by the choices we had made. Despite the distance that had grown between us, Alex and I remained connected, our shared glances and subtle touches a silent testament to the love that still burned brightly within us. But the joy that had once accompanied our stolen moments was now tinged with sorrow. The knowledge that our happiness had come at such a high cost, weighing heavily on our hearts as the days turned into weeks, it became clear that we could not continue living in this state of limbo. The time had come to face the consequences of our actions, to confront the reality of our situation, and to make the difficult decisions that lay ahead. It was during a rare moment of clarity, with the kitchen once again serving as the backdrop for our most pivotal moments, that I realized what needed to be done for the sake of our family, for the sake of our own well-being. Alex and I had to step back from the precipice we had been teetering on for far too long. With a heavy heart, I sought out my stepson, finding him in the quiet solitude of the backyard. The conversation that ensued was one of the hardest of my life, each word a struggle against the tide of emotions that threatened to overwhelm us both. Alex, I began, my voice barely above a whisper, we can't go on like this. The pain we're causing, it's not fair to your father, and it's not fair to us. He nodded, his eyes brimming with unshed tears. I know, I've been thinking the same thing, but what do we do, Rachel? How do we just turn off our feelings? I reached out and took his hand, the familiar warmth of his skin, a bittersweet reminder of what we were about to sacrifice. We don't turn off our feelings, Alex. We'll always have them, but we have to put them aside for now. We need to give your father, give all of us time to heal. The decision was made, the path forward, fraught with uncertainty and heartache. We would take a step back from our relationship, focusing instead on rebuilding the trust that had been shattered by our actions. It was a small step, but it was a start, a chance to salvage what was left of our family and to find a way to move forward, even if it meant moving forward apart in the stillness of the night, with the house cloaked in darkness and the wounds of our fractured family still raw. Alex and I made a decision that would alter the course of our lives forever. The weight of our situation had become unbearable, the tension within the walls of our home a constant reminder of the love that had torn us apart. We couldn't stay. The thought of continuing to cause pain to someone we both cared for deeply was more than we could endure, and so with heavy hearts and a glimmer of desperate hope, we decided to run away together, to seek solace in a new beginning, far from the prying eyes and shattered dreams of our past. The night was a whirlwind of activity. As we prepared for our departure, we packed light, taking only the essentials and leaving behind anything that might tie us to the lives we were abandoning. With each item tossed into our bags, we shed a piece of our former selves, trading the familiar for the unknown. As dawn approached, we shared one last lingering look, a silent acknowledgement of the leap of faith we were about to take. The car was packed, the engine hummed softly in the driveway, and with a deep breath, we stepped out into the gray light of morning, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The drive was long and silent, each of us lost in our own thoughts as the landscape blurred past the windows. It wasn't until we crossed the state line, leaving our old life behind, that the reality of our situation began to sink in. We were fugitives of sorts, bound by a love that defied societal norms and a shared secret that had upended our world. We found refuge in a small coastal town, a place where no one knew our names or the complexities of our past. Our days were spent exploring the cobblestone streets and hidden beaches, our nights a tender exploration of each other's bodies as we sought to rekindle the passion that had brought us to this point. One such evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, we found ourselves in the modest kitchen of our rented cottage. The air was thick with the scent of the ocean, the gentle crash of waves, a serene soundtrack to our fledgling life together. I stood at the stove stirring a pot of simmering marinara while Alex set the table, his movements unhurried and deliberate. The domesticity of the scene was a stark contrast to the turmoil that had preceded our departure. And yet there was a comfort in these simple shared tasks, a sense of rightness that had been absent for so long. As I turned to fetch the pasta from the counter, my grazed the edge of the stove, causing me to gasp in surprise. Alex was at my side in an instant, his brow furrowed in concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, his hand reaching out to steady me, the contact innocent as it was ignited the simmering desire that always seemed to lie just below the surface of our interactions. I nodded, my voice a whisper as I replied, "I'm fine, just a little clumsy." The mischievous glint in Alex's eyes told me he knew exactly what I was feeling. With a playful smirk, he stepped closer, his body aligning with mine as he reached around me to grab a handful of spaghetti. "Here, let me help you with that," he said, his breath hot against my ear, the feel of his chest pressed against my back, the subtle brush of his fingers against my arm as he dropped the pasta into the boiling water. It was all too much. I turned to face him, the intensity of my need reflected in his gaze. Without a word, we abandoned the meal, our hunger for each other eclipsing the rumbling of our stomachs. Alex lifted me onto the kitchen counter, his hands roaming over my body with a reverence that belied the urgency of our desire. Our love-making was fervent, each fervent kiss and touch a testament to the love and passion that bound us together. My hands worked quickly to free him from the constraints of his clothing, my fingers wrapping around his length. Our movements were synchronized, a dance as old as time, each thrust bringing us closer to the edge. The kitchen, once a place of nourishment and sustenance, had become our sanctuary, a private enclave where we could express our love without fear of judgment or reprisal. The world outside our modest cottage ceased to exist as we lost ourselves in the act of loving one another. The rhythm of our coupling, a sweet refrain that spoke of hope and in redemption. We sat there on the kitchen counter, our bodies still intimately connected, and reveled in the quiet satisfaction that comes from knowing you have found your match, your perfect complement in a world full of variables. As we eventually returned to our cooling meal, there was an unspoken understanding between us. Our journey was far from over. The road ahead fraught with challenges and uncertainties, but in that moment, with the taste of salt on our lips and the echo of our passions still resonating in our hearts, we were exactly where we were meant to be. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months as Alex and I settled into a rhythm that was entirely our own. The coastal town that had once been our refuge now felt like home, its winding streets and salty air, a backdrop to the life we were carefully stitching. Together our days were spent in a blend of work and leisure, the lines between the two often blurred. I had found a job at a local bookstore, losing myself in the written word and the quiet camaraderie of fellow literature enthusiast Alex, with his natural talent for art, had started to make a name for himself among the local galleries, his paintings capturing the raw beauty of our surroundings. Despite the idyllic nature of our new life, the shadow of our past never strayed far from our thoughts. We spoke often of the family we had left behind, the guilt of our departure, of persistent ache that neither time nor distance could fully alleviate. Yet as we lay in bed each night, our bodies entwined and our hearts beating in unison, we found solace in the love that had led us to this place. It was on a crisp autumn evening, as we sat on the porch of our cottage, a shared blanket draped over our laps, that the conversation we had been avoiding finally came to the FL. The sun had just set, the sky awash with colors that mirrored the complex emotions swirling within us. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Do you miss your family, your dad?" Alex turned to me, his expression soft in the fading light. "Every day," he admitted, "but I don't regret being with you. I just wish things could have been different, that we didn't have to hurt so many people to find our way to each other." I nodded, understanding all too well the bittersweet nature of our situation. "We can't change the past, Alex, but we can work on building something worthy of the sacrifices we've made." The days that followed were a testament to that resolve. We reached out to my husband, to my stepson's father, attempting to mend the bridge we had burned in our hasty departure. The conversations were painful and filled with raw emotion, but they were necessary steps on the road to healing and forgiveness. As the holiday season approached, we decided to return home for a visit, to face the man we had wronged and to offer an olive branch to the family that was still very much a part of us despite the distance that had grown between us. It was a risk, to be sure, but it was one we felt ready to take. The reunion was fraught with tension and awkward silences, but there were moments of genuine connection, shared laughs and stories that served as reminders of the love that had once united us as a family. My husband, though still grappling with the betrayal, showed glimpses of the forgiveness we so desperately sought. His interactions with Alex tinged with a cautious optimism that had been absent for far too long. It was during these moments of reconciliation that Alex and I came to realize the true strength of our bond. We were not just lovers, but partners in the truest sense of the word, supporting each other through the darkest of times and finding strength in our shared vulnerability. As we prepared to return to our coastal haven, we did so with a renewed sense of purpose and a fragile hope for the future. We had faced our demons, confronted the pain of our past, and emerged stronger for it individually and as a couple. Our love story, marked by trials and tribulations that few could comprehend, had come full circle. We had learned that love, in all its complexity and contradiction, was worth fighting for even when the odds were stacked against us. And so we returned to the life we had built together, our hearts lighter and our spirits buoyed by the promise of what was to come. We had weathered the storm, and as we stood hand in hand on the shoreline, watching the waves crash against the sand, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them as we had everything else together in the weeks following their return to the coastal town, Rachel and Alex made a concerted effort to maintain open lines of communication with Rachel's estranged husband. The process was slow and fraught with emotional landmines, but with time the conversations became less about the pain of the past and more about laying the groundwork for a new kind of relationship, one based on mutual respect and understanding. Rachel's husband, grappling with the complex eddies of his own emotions, found solace and therapy and the support of close friends. He began to see the situation not as a complete betrayal, but as a deeply unfortunate series of events that had led to the happiness of two people he still cared for deeply. It was a difficult realization, but one that allowed him to extend an olive branch of his own, offering tentative blessings to Rachel and Alex's relationship. Back in their seaside retreat, Rachel and Alex focused on building a stable and fulfilling life together. They embraced the local community, forming friendships that helped to anchor them in their new surroundings. Rachel thrived in her role at the bookstore, while Alex's art gained recognition, leading to his first solo exhibition. The couple took pleasure in the simple joys of daily life, finding comfort in routine and the quiet moments shared over a cup of coffee or a walk along the beach. They spoke often of their future, dreaming of a home filled with laughter, art, and the many stories they hoped to share. As the seasons changed, so too did the dynamics of their relationship with Rachel's estranged husband. The lines of communication remained open, and with each passing month, the wounds of the past began to heal. The three of them eventually found a way to coexist, their interactions marked by a newfound sense of acceptance and an understanding that love in all its forms is deserving of recognition and respect. Rachel and Al, their bond strengthened by adversity, decided to make their commitment official. They married in a small, intimate ceremony on the beach, with the sounds of the waves and the cries of the gulls as their backdrop. It was a testament to their journey, a celebration of the love that had endured despite the odds. Their wedding day was not just a union of two souls, but a symbol of hope and the power of second chances. As they exchanged vows, they did so with the knowledge that the path they had chosen was not an easy one, but it was theirs, and that was all that mattered. Their love story, marked by trials and tribulations that few could comprehend, had come full circle. They had learned that love in all its complexity and contradiction was worth fighting for, even when the odds were stacked against them. And so they returned to the life they had built together, their hearts lighter and their spirits buoyed by the promise of what was to come. They had weathered the storm, and as they stood hand in hand on the shoreline watching the waves crash against the sand, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them as they had everything else. Together, as Rachel and Alex settled into their new life together, they found themselves in a delicate dance of rebuilding and redefining the boundaries of their relationship with Rachel's estranged husband. The process was akin to tending a garden after a harsh winter, requiring patience, care, and the acceptance that growth would come in its own time. In the seaside town that had become their sanctuary, they discovered a rhythm that was both peaceful and invigorating. Rachel's days at the bookstore were filled with the comforting scent of worn pages and the quiet excitement of recommending a beloved novel to an eager reader. Alex's art flourished, his canvases capturing the rugged beauty of their surroundings and the depth of emotion that had shaped his journey. Their evenings were spent in the cozy confines of their cottage, where the simplest of meals often led to lingering conversations and shared dreams of the future. They spoke of building a studio for Alex where the natural light would pour in and inspire his creativity. Rachel envisioned a small library, her collection of books, a testament to the stories that had shaped her life. As the seasons changed, the cool ocean breeze gave way to the warmth of summer, and with it came a sense of clarity and purpose. Rachel and Alex, their connection deepened by the trials they had faced, decided it was time to solidify their commitment to each other. They began to plan a ceremony that would celebrate their love and the unconventional path that had led them to this point. The day of their wedding arrived, a day that was both a culmination of their journey and the beginning of a new chapter. They chose a secluded stretch of beach where the only WEs to their vows would be the whispering waves and the occasional seabirds soaring above. Rachel wore a simple flowing dress that danced in the breeze, her hair adorned with a crown of wild flowers. Alex, in a crisp linen shirt and slacks, waited for her at the water's edge, his eyes reflecting the depth of his love and commitment as they exchanged their vows. The words they spoke were not just promises for the future, but acknowledgments of the strength and resilience they had already shown. They spoke of forgiveness, of choosing each other every day, and of building a life that honored their past while embracing the possibilities of tomorrow. The ceremony was intimate and heartfelt, a testament to the love that had endured despite the odds. As they sealed their union with a kiss, the setting sun cast a golden glow over the ocean, as if nature itself was offering its blessing. In the weeks that followed, Rachel and Alex found themselves reaching out to their families, extending an olive branch and inviting them to share in their happiness. It was a tentative step, one that was met with a mixture of apprehension and relief. Rachel's husband, after months of therapy and soul-searching, surprised them with his presence at one of Alex's art exhibitions. It was a silent acknowledgement of the progress they had made, a tacit nod to the complicated tapestry of their family dynamic. The road to reconciliation was not without its bumps, but with each passing day, the lines of communication opened a little wider, and the walls that had once divided them began to crumble. They learned to navigate the complexities of their relationships with grace and understanding, finding a new kind of normal that allowed them to coexist and even find moments of joy in each other's company. As fall approached, bringing with it a chill that hinted at the changing seasons, Rachel and Alex found themselves reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. They had faced heartache and judgment, had weathered storms that threatened to tear them apart, and yet here they stood stronger, wiser, and more in love than ever before. Their love story, woven from threads of passion, adversity, and redemption, had become a beacon of hope, a reminder that love in all its forms is a force to be reckoned with. And as they curled up together on the porch of their cottage, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of fiery orange and deep purple, they knew that they had found their place in the world, a place where they could be themselves together. For always, the line that had once been crossed was now a distant memory, its consequences absorbed and transformed into a foundation upon which they could build a future filled with love, art, and the countless stories that were yet to be written. With hearts full of gratitude and eyes bright with anticipation, Rachel and Alex embraced the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead side by side as one.